you about is how to get your fair share of what you should demand, whether you're an employer or an employee. So how many of you have people that you manage in an organization? 2, 3, 4. Okay, there's some of us, but chances are that you also have a manager yourself that you want to look out for. Okay, so just as in a pipeline, you have pumps that convey fluid, valves that regulate flow, and sensors that relay important information back to those pumps and valves for optimal operation. So too does an organization require effective processes to operate efficiently, equipment to manufacture goods, and a healthy compensation system to remunerate its most important asset, people. People are the most important asset of any organization. Therefore, I think it's important that we all understand, whether you're an HR, you're a manager, or you're an employee, how compensation works in an organization, lest we neglect the critical fluid components that convey the fluid of enterprise. So the first thing an organization will do is they develop a compensation philosophy. Okay, what is this compensation philosophy? This is big HR talk. Well, simply, it's all about equity. Okay, that's anything of value exchanged for something of equivalent value. And there's 4 types of equity. The first one is external. And due to the competitive nature of businesses, companies will look externally at other organizations, either in the same industry or in a different industry, and look at a certain type of job by job title and job description, and see if they're competing, in paying somebody a fair wage, so they don't lose that employee to another organization. The other type of equity is internal. For instance, if you're a machinist and you make parts, let's say Will is doing one thing and Russ, they're making the exact same type of parts, right? We want to compare them. If they're doing the same job, they make the same amount of money, which allows me to segue into the next type of equity, which is individual equity. Let's say Russ makes twice as many goods as Will. It stands to reason that we should pay Russ twice as much. And then finally, there's personal equity. And pay attention to this. This is the cornerstone to employee satisfaction. And the 2 most important, external and personal, I'm going to go into in a little bit more detail. And here's why. Most organizations, in fact 85%, use external equity as their way to determine how much they should pay their employees. And the first reason why is because as an employee, you're always going to look at your peers and ask, well, how much does my job pay in this other organization? So there's benchmarking. The second reason they use external equity to develop their compensation philosophy is due to image and reputation. If I'm hiring somebody, I want to pay the most. I want to attract the top talent. I also want to send a message to my competitors that I'm the leader in my industry, that I attract the top talent and I have the deeper pockets. So don't mess with me. It signals leadership position. And finally, from a managerial point of view, you want to take care of your own. You don't want to lose your employees. You don't want to suffer the cost of attrition either. So taking care of one's own means taking care of business. Now, there are 3 compensable factors. I don't ever use the word compensable, so I just learned this one the other day too. I don't know how many of you have used that before. So compensable factors, what to compensate for. Primarily, whenever you produce work, you expect to get an equivalent amount of compensation back. It makes sense, right? Tit for tat, mutual exchange. And this is entailed in the job description, the duties and the responsibilities, core functions of your job. There's secondary compensable factors, which is education and experience. If you're a nuclear physicist with a PhD, it stands to reason that you should make more than someone with just a bachelor's degree. And also, if you have 5+ years of experience, you're going to bring that to the table a lot, and it's going to benefit the company a lot more than a new hire, right out of school, who hasn't learned about things like office politics and who to ask in order to get something done. And I've learned that from experience. It's important to know these things. But externally, education experience can vary considerably. So enter tertiary compensable factors, which is the employee's potential and their intangibles. Look at your employee. Are they the type of employee that's always wanting to learn, always increasing their knowledge? Do they have a fervor for making more money for the business, the bottom line, and operating profit, assuming you're not a non-profit business? So leadership potential. And are they they liked by their peers? You can be a high-performing individual, train can run on time, and you can do a great job and get the work done on time. But if you're not liked by your peers and you're a thorn in the side of others, you might not last very long. So that's a detract from the potential there on the tertiary invincible factor. So, real quickly, with the technical difficulties and whatnot, I've gone over compensation philosophy and external equity and how that's developed through external market research. Within a particular job, you want to define the job description and the responsibilities. Do your external market research, and then hopefully you'll find a good match for the position. You don't want to have overqualified employees coming into your organization. They may be great, right? You may think, wow, this person's going to do a great job in this particular job. But if they can find an employer elsewhere, even if for a fundamentally different job, and you're comparing apples to oranges, they may not be a good match for that position. The second thing to consider about personal equity is, does the position itself allow for moving up in an organization? Can you groom that position itself? Or is it a stagnant one, stationary? So consider the employee you're bringing in. If they're very ambitious, you don't want to put them in a pigeonhole type position because they'll get frustrated. And then, if you've ever looked at a job posting, sometimes they post a salary. Chances are they'll have a lower 25th percentile and an upper 75th percentile. And if your employee is really good, you can even go up to 90th percentile. But if you want to compete for that individual, you have to make use of that salary range. So the takeaways from this speech is keep your finger on the pulse of compensation philosophy and how these things are determined in an organization. You want to avoid compensation and motivation, arrhythmia. Look inside and out, internal equity, what people are in an organization, and external equity, what other people are paying for a similar job. And avoid the cost of attrition. A study by the Hay Group reported that losing employees through attrition can mean 4% of revenues and up to 40% profits. So take care of your employees means taking care of business. Avoid the cost of attrition, and ask your boss for a compensation review now rather than later. Regardless of the structure in your organization, it's never too late. Mr. Toastmaster.